Hey, Brent Yax with Allcom. Today I want to talk about a concept called technical debt. Originally, this was a metaphor Walt Cunningham came up with. He's a software developer. He came up to apply how do you understand some of the short-term decisions you're making within a development project, and how do you show what that impact long-term will be from a cost perspective. So this concept applies not necessarily only to the software development world, but it definitely applies to businesses today in general across all industries. So when we talk about technical debt, we have two different categories, and it's either going to be kind of on the infrastructure side, which is all the systems that are supporting the business and general operations, and then we have the items on the business side, which are more of the products and processes that we use to support the business, support the delivery of our services, maintain quality, maintain efficiencies, things like that. So looking at it from the product side, looking at it from the business side, we're delaying, say, that new ERP tool, or we're pushing off a CRM install, or we've decided not to upgrade kind of our back office tools, or we've decided to kind of hold off on some of the laptops and some of the tools that people are using to perform their jobs. And what we see that debt turn into is typically an impact in productivity. We see it in an impact sometimes in time to market. We definitely see it in the innovation side. New technology tends to solve old problems. That's why it came out. And with that allows a business new opportunities. So the companies that stay kind of up to date on the new tools usually can integrate some of those advancements into products and through innovation. And we also see that, impacting how systems are integrated together, how data flows between different systems, the reporting that we can get out of those systems. So a lot of these are something we can associate in ROI to. So this one's a little bit easier to quantify because we know that if we make this investment and we are able to increase productivity by 15%, there's a dollar amount that translates into for the business. So when we're looking at how do we calculate that technical debt from the business side, we're saying what would be the impact of not making these decisions today as it looks long term. So if it's a 20% impact on productivity for 20% of your staff, you can figure out kind of a financial model to determine what that number is. The side that's a little more challenging, and the side that I think people really underestimate, is the infrastructure side. And the infrastructure are all of the components necessary for the business to kind of operate. It is the core communication systems. It is your Wi-Fi. It is the server or cloud technology you're using to support kind of that infrastructure and all those different applications. The dangerous part about this one, although it's a little bit harder for businesses to quantify, is that this one has the most severe impact on kind of the most important parts of the business, and that's employees. So what happens in how you measure that debt in the infrastructure side is you have to look at employee churn rates, you have to look at employee productivity, you have to look at employee engagement within the company, and ultimately the really big thing you have to monitor is employee confidence, not only in the technical side of the business, is your company giving them the ability to compete as an individual in the job market, but also their confidence in the leadership to be able to solve fundamental problems. So when you see a company that keeps pushing off or delaying implementation of new things, or running into a new software system but they can't really get it executed well, and they kind of fall back and they push out all of their windows on what new tools they're using, eventually employees will start believing the company doesn't have the ability to get there. And that turns into culture issues. And unfortunately, what happens when you have culture issues is that it goes right to your employee, or right to your customers. Because if somebody's unhappy within the organization and a customer calls and talks to them, they will know that they're unhappy within the organization. So that one's a little bit harder to calculate and determine what the financial impact of it is, but probably the most important one to address and deal with. So we have a little bit more in-depth look of this on our blog. The link's gonna be below. Go ahead and take a look at it. We're gonna jump into where can you identify some of these issues? How do you know what the warning signs are? How do you know if you have some of this debt that's kind of lurking out there that you need to address? We're going to look at some methods in which you can kind of look at that debt and take advantage of it, or because in certain situations you actually may want to leverage that. You may want to cast a cost out. We kind of examine that a little bit. So again, check out our blog. There's a ton of additional resources there, a ton of information, but I think the most important thing to remember is that you cannot escape technical debt. It does impact you in some way. There will always be the one-to-one cost that you're putting off, but there's an interest and a risk that carries along with that cost. And so for the time period of which you threw that debt out there, figure out what the value of that or that cost of that interest will be and see if it's worth it.